Hi everyone, today I welcome you to this tutorial. Today I will be covering Spring Boot Web SOAP Services with MTOM attachment. So what is MTOM? MTOM is a way of sending your binary data as an attachment in your SOAP response. So before getting into our code and output, let's take a look at what is MTOM into a definition. So what is MTOM? SOAP MTOM, you can see message transmission optimization mechanism. So when you are sending a binary data, in ordinary case you will be sending your hex binary, base 64 binary or a hex binary data directly in your SOAP envelope. But when you use MTOM, you will be sending it as an attachment and that reference will be residing in your envelope. So this is MTOM or XOP, message transmission optimization mechanism, or XML binary optimization packaging. MTOM/XOP. What does it do? How does it help? When you are sending a binary data as a request or as a response from the server or from the client to the server via request, it will be compressed and sent to the server or to the client by the server. So why do you need MTOM? When you are sending other data along with an attachment, you will be sending the hex 64 binary or hex binary data, base 64 binary or hex binary data as an attachment. So these are the steps that gets executed when you send an MTOM attachment. First, your entire data will be encoded. Next, instead of sending it as a SOAP envelope, it will be detached from the SOAP envelope. Then your data will be compressed for optimization. The fourth step, it will be added as an attachment to the Mime packaging, and finally the reference of that package, Mime package, will be added to the SOAP envelope. So your attachment is sent as a Mime attachment, Mime packaging attachment. So how does the Mime corresponds to your Java class? The image, GIF image Mime is mapped as java.awt.image, JPEG as also .awt.image, text/plain as java.lang.string, text/XML or application XML as the source, XML source, or any other Mime as data handler, javax.activation.data handler. This is a part of Java EE specs. So this is the introductory thing about MTOM. I decided about creating this tutorial when I was working just 2 days back on creating a SOAP web service from the server side when the client needed an MTOM attachment. So I decided about creating this. So many of you might be needing this when you are working with legacy systems. So let's directly get into our code. So I hope this should be okay with your MTOM. If you want to know more about MTOM, Google it. You will get more details about MTOM. We are more interested in writing Spring Boot Web Services with MTOM attachment. So let's directly get into our code. So pom.xml doesn't have any change from our last web service example. The change that we have is in our XSD file. So what we have in our XSD, this remains the same. What we are doing here in this example, we'll be creating a user, means sending a user. What will do with the user response? User will contain a first name, last name, and also a profile picture. So first thing that you have to do, the change in XSD file, is add this XML namespace, this Mime xmime namespace. Then what we have changed is created this profile picture complex type, and this complex type has a name, and this content you can see this is base 64 binary with expected content type. This means the Mime that you have over here is image/jpeg. So as soon as you run the POM file maven goal, it will generate all this class by default. So now let's take a look at this profile picture. This corresponds to this one. So here you can see profile picture. It has this name and this image. Why this name is important? Because when you are sending a data as an MTOM attachment, it will not have any name. It will be some junk names that will be auto generated. It will be just a binary data with no name. So it's necessary that you send a name to the receiver or the client. So here you can see it is mapped to image, and you can see one more annotation over here, XML MIME type with this image/JPEG that we mentioned in our XSD. So let me close this down now. The next important thing that you have is this configuration. This is the important thing that you have to look into it. Here the change that I have made is, last time I was using WS configurer adapter. Now I am using WS configuration support. This remains the same. This is the new one that we have added. So you can see, as you know, JAXB is internally used for this marshalling and unmarshalling in SOAP response and request. So here what we are doing is creating a JAXB marshaller and setting the context path. What is this context path corresponds to? This will correspond to all the models that you have over here. The package name, the root package name of all these models. So I mentioned this as context. This is important. You can see I have marked this as important. This is, I have set this as, this marshaller will have set MTOM enabled as true, so that it can do the marshalling. This is the important part. This marshaller is, you can see, used over here. I am injecting this marshaller bean over here in the payload. We are telling that to use this marshaller in the payload. And you can see this is a overridden method, so that the default thing about so the default handler means the default way Spring Boot Web Services does, that is overridden over here. You can see here is the marshaller that we created. This is injected over here, and now this method processor is injected over here and here. So when we are doing handling, resolving this method, we will be using this JAXB marshaller instead of the default way that is used. If you don't override this method and just leave this to, it won't be of any help. You have to use this marshaller into this, so that Spring Boot Web Services uses this marshaller. So that's the thing that we needed. All other things remain the same. This is the WSDL definition that we are creating. This is the schema that has mapped to, and everything remains the same. These three methods that makes the difference: creating the marshaller, injecting this bean, and using this method processor over here. So that's the thing that we needed about configuration to use the MTOM. And just like as before, here we have the endpoint. This endpoint is responsible for getting the request. We take the request. From the request we retrieve the ID. From the ID we search for the user in the user repository and set it in the response. So what do we have in our user repository? In our user repository, what we are doing, you can see I have set the default path. This default path is, this default path comes over here. You can see I have an image. This is Tony Cruz's image that I have downloaded from Wikipedia. I am using this. So here I am creating a user with his name, ID as 1, then mapping that image. Since the name of the image file is 1.jpg, I am using that ID to keep it generic, 1.jpg, and then setting that picture into his user profile, and then putting it into the map and using this method to return that user whenever it is requested. So when the ID is passed, it will be returned, that particular user will be returned. So let's take a look back at our XSD. When you get the request, you pass send the response. In the response you have the ID, first name, last name, and the profile picture. So this is the configuration. We have looked into the configuration and whatever we have. So let's start the server. So in this tutorial we are just sending an MTOM attachment as a in response. So in our next tutorial what we will be doing is we will be sending MTOM attachment in the request, and we will also be writing a client side application to handle this MTOM and any other response. We will also be writing client application that will consume this web service. So the server seems to be up. Now let's go to SOAP UI. I will create a SOAP project, name it as Spring MTOM. HTTP localhost 8080 ws / and its users dot wisdom. You can see it is created the port. Here comes our request. Here it is. I will put the ID over here and then click on it. You can see you have got the details. Tony Cruz. This is the image name that we are sending. This is important, just as I was mentioning, because the when you are sending a binary response as an attachment, here you will have only a reference. You can see here XOP, XML based optimization packaging, binary optimization packaging. Here is the ID, CID. This is content ID. How can you refer it? If you have multiple attachments in your SOAP response, here is the Mime Attachments. So here you can see this content ID. If you can match, it will be the same. This is a big one. You can see it's a big one. So the MIME that we mentioned over here has come. This name is a junk name that gets auto populated, and if we just double click it, it will open the image file that we had. So you can see this is the image that we are sending from the file. So this is the image file that we had, and here you can see that I opened from the SOAP UI that was sent in the response. So you can see this is sent as an image, as a MTOM attachment. So with this we come to the end of this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like this video. If you love my channel, subscribe to it. We'll be posting more exciting videos about coding. Till then, happy coding, and don't forget to watch World Cup. Till then, goodbye.